Guess what Greg Sankey had to say about that today?
What?
You're about to find out, Nick.
Absolutely, fully, 100% correct that in the SEC we play 8 conference games while some others play 9 conference games. Never been a secret. Second, it's also correct that last season all 16 members of the Southeastern Conference played at least 9 games against what you would label power opponents. We had several that played 10 of their 12 games against power opponents. Some conferences have that, some don't.
I want you to bookmark that.
The same will be true this year. And we have Washington State, and we're obviously transitioning in the Pac-12 that's included in that group. And we again have several of our football teams that have 10 of those power games embedded within their schedule.
Bookmark that.
I don't believe there's anyone looking to swap their conference schedule and its opponents with the opponents played by Southeastern Conference teams in our conference schedule, be it 8 or 9. I handed out a bunch of stats that created a stir in Destin that showed there's a rigor here that is unique. In the SEC, we're not lacking for quality competition among our 16 football teams. But we're going to continue to evaluate whether increasing the number of conference football games is appropriate for us. And as I've said repeatedly, understanding how the CFP will evaluate strength of schedule and even strength of record is critically important in our decision making.
So it's a long-winded way of saying, yeah, we'll look into it, but we really don't need to because we play a tougher schedule than everybody else. Now, remember those comments he had in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about how several of our schools play 9 games against what you would call power conference opponents, with some playing 10, and then went on to say that this year we have several teams who are playing as much as 10.
How would you define several?
Well, I'm about to show you.
Okay.
Because I went back and looked at the Big Four conferences, Power Four conferences, and here's how many teams are playing 9, 10, and some are even playing 11 Power 4 opponents this year.
That's amazing.
In the ACC, all but 3 of the ACC's 15 schools are playing 10. Only Duke, Louisville, and Wake Forest are playing 9. Power 4 conference games. Now, remember, the ACC also has an 8-game conference schedule.
So that still means that they're playing at least one team in the non-conference.
Yes. The Big Ten has several teams at 10, 5 teams at 9. Indiana, Maryland, Northwestern, Penn State, and Rutgers are playing 9 power conference games. In other words, they're not playing anyone in the non-conference who is considered a Power 4 opponent. And by the way, for the purposes of this conversation,
tough look for Penn State.
Notre Dame, Oregon State, and Washington State, we're counting in this conversation.
You are still including them, okay.
We're still counting them in this conversation.
Tough look for Penn State, by the way.
Yes, it is.
They do this all the time. They never really try to. I guess last year they played West Virginia, but the majority of the time in the James Franklin era, they have played some real crap in the non-con.
In the Big 12, Baylor and TCU are saying, to heck with all y'all, we're going to play 11 games against the Power 4.
Did you know that going into this project?
I did not know that.
TCU, for those who are wondering, they famously begin the year at North Carolina, the first game for Bill Belichick. They have Abilene Christian, and then they play SMU. So they play an ACC and a Big 12 team. Baylor, they play Auburn, awesome, on a Friday night, and then they are at SMU in week 2, and then they welcome Samford into town in the non-conference.
And by the way, SMU, that's another Big 12 team. But remember, that's
an ACC team.
Well, SMU, that's right. But remember, there was also, I believe with one of these schools, didn't they still have a? Because remember last year, was it like Kansas State and somebody?
Kansas State and Arizona.
Right. They had already scheduled a game in the non-conference, so they kept it on the schedule as a non-conference
And yes,
game.
it was a non-conference game. Like Kansas State this year is at Arizona, and it is still a non-conference game. But Kansas State, otherwise in the non-con, they play North Dakota and they play Army. So even though they play 10 games versus conference opponents, only 9 of them actually count.
By the way, nobody in the Big 12 is playing less than 10 Power 4 opponents. Nobody
Shout
in the
out.
Big 10 or Big 12 is playing less than 10 P4 opponents.
We love it.
Now in the SEC. Remember when Greg Sankey said we even have several teams who are playing 10 P4 games? Well, I guess several could be described as more than one.
I would describe, one is one, two is a couple, three is a few. You need, to me, you need four to reach several.
Well, only Alabama, Florida, and South Carolina are playing 10. Now remember, the majority of the teams in the Big 12 are playing 10, with the others playing 11. The majority of the teams in the Big 10 are playing 10, with the exception of 5. The majority of the teams in the ACC are playing 10, with the exception of 3. But in the SEC, only 3 schools are playing as many as 10 P4 opponents in the regular season.
Yeah, if you're wondering.
Everybody else is at 9.
If you're wondering who are those teams playing in the non-conference, Alabama is at Florida State week 1, and they play Wisconsin in week 3. I didn't realize Florida had 10. They have Miami on the schedule
Miami
this year.
and Florida State, which they always have.
And then South Carolina, they always
have Clemson. So the other...
Yeah, I'm looking it up. I can't remember who
the
that
other...
was.
Don't remember. Off the top of my head.
They have in the... Virginia Tech in the
Virginia
non-conference, an ACC school. Interesting.
Yeah.
By the way, real quick before we get into the SEC and making fun of them, if you're wondering about Notre Dame, because Kenneth is an Irish fan in the audience, they are playing 10 power schools this year. They have Miami, they have Texas A&M, they have Purdue. Well, should we count Purdue? They have Arkansas.
Purdue.
They have NC State, USC,
If
Boston
Big 10
College.
gets to count Purdue, I guess
That's
Notre
true.
Dame does too.
Pitt, Syracuse, Stanford. And by the way, if you're saying, okay, who are their other 2 teams against? Navy, they always play. Shout out to traditions. But the best team in the G5 last year, now G6, Boise State. So that is full of good teams, full of power teams at the very least in their non-conference schedule, because they don't have a conference.
So when you look at this, I mean, it's clear the Big 12 tries to challenge itself.
Yep.
The ACC is a distant second. The Big 10 is third, and the SEC is a distant fourth. When it comes to how they try to schedule themselves. Now, of course, the SEC honks will say, yeah, but our 8 games are more tough than your 9. Fine, whatever. That's fun, cool. Say what it.
But I mean, it's a lie then for what Sankey was saying. Do what you want to do. Don't lie about it, though.
Right.
Because they're lying about how tough their schedule is, at least in the non-conference.
So, I mean, listen, I believe we should try to equalize these as much as possible.
Yeah.
I understand where the SEC is coming from. I do. But, I mean, they have, of their 16 schools, 13 are playing 9 P4 games. There's only 8 other schools in the country who are P4 schools who are playing as few as 9. Think about that. The SEC has more teams playing 9 P4 games than the other 3 leagues combined, and they almost by twice as many. 13 are playing 9.
And then 8 combined in the ACC.
8
Big 12,
in the Big 8 in the ACC and Big 10 combined for 9.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
So I know this is one of the things that's holding up the whole playoff conversation, and quite frankly, if it continues to hold up the playoff conversation and they don't make any moves,
I guess we'll be okay with it,
that's probably
right?
for the better. But it's just it's hard to keep hearing all of those things coming from the SEC. Again, I get it.
Just say our schedule. We think our schedule is tough enough without it.
And that's basically what they are saying.
Yes.
That's basically what they are saying.
/ we want as many home games as possible.
Right.
We want to maximize the number of home games.
Or, hey, we want just automatic. We just want to be in automatically. We're weenies.
No, that's the Big Ten.
We're whiners.
None of the peer pressure coming from the other leagues, none of the, posturing over playoff and how the playoff should be structured is going to pressure the SEC to move up to 9. The only thing that's going to pressure them to move up to 9 are the dollars. One of the reasons why the Big Ten makes more money than the SEC is because they do have the 9 conference games. Thus, They're able to contract with 3 major networks, Fox, NBC, and CBS, to do those games.
Yeah.
If the SEC, if the Big Ten continues to pull away, remember, it wasn't all that long ago where the 5 power conferences, when we still had the Pac-12,
RIP,
didn't seem that far apart. The only one that really seemed that far apart was the SEC, but that's because they were winning all the time. But when we were looking at the dollars and cents of it all,
it was not that insane yet.
it was not that insane. It ramped up over the last decade, over the last 5 years, where things got really out of whack.
Yeah, once the Big Ten.
And the Big Ten started to pull away and the SEC started to pull away, it's not inconceivable. If it can happen that fast between 5 conferences, what if the Big Ten started to pull away from the SEC in terms of dollars and cents?
Well, I mean,
that's going to be the thing that pressures the SEC
and I don't think it's
into
gonna
making the decision.
I don't think it's going to
Nothing else.
Jim and O'Neill, our good friend, says, who would have thought we'd see SEC honk John Bishop turning heel and calling out the conference? Weird.
I have always been willing to call out people for their inconsistencies.
Interesting. This is
You all have painted me as the SEC honk. You should actually paint me as the anti-Big Ten honk.
Well, that means you're pro-ACC. If you're anti-Big Ten, you're pro-SEC. Those are the rules, John. I don't make them.
I'm pro-Big 12.
You're
Look at that.
Big 12.
Look at that.
It's a great
11.
conference.
Baylor and TC. You want to hear something shocking?
Yeah.
Thank you, Baylor.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, Baylor.
You mean
How many times in history have you been able to say thank you, Baylor?
Yeah,
Think about the history of Baylor. It's been pretty sketch.
You did say that a lot when he played basketball for Creighton. Thank you, Baylor, for making that 5 points bank 3-pointer.
I'm not talking about that Baylor. I'm talking about Baylor University.
If anything,
you talk about a school that has go away heat with me. It's Baylor University, and yet here they are playing 11 Power 4 games.
well, hell, the entire Big 12. I'm really starting to like the Big 12 a lot.
It's a great conference.
Because they're not trying to tiptoe around and be like, oh, we want participation bids.
They play fun games. They play in a fun conference.
And they try. They earn it.
By the way, lots of critiques from our friends of the Grum about Greg Sankey's talking. Not so much him, but his talking. 402 texter says, Greg Sankey sounded like he's making an announcement during World War II. It was very echoey in that building.
Yeah.
It might have been the quality of the video, to be fair.
Cats are funny, right? Sankey is such a bad public speaker, so monotone. People do not like how he talks.
Just have a little inflection.
Here's the problem, though. It doesn't really matter how he talks, because what he says matters.
That's true.
Because he's one of the big 2.
That's true.
I mean, not that many people have heard Tony Petitti speak. You'll hear him next week. For maybe about 5 minutes, and that's about all you'll hear from him. He's not Mr. Electricity either.
No. But our guy, Brett Yormark, is. We love Brett.
Yeah.
I think
he's doing a good job.
I think if you're the head of a conference, you need to go through media training.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you?
You're talking a bunch to a lot of people.
He's
all
saying
the
they
time.
should. He's not saying like they have and they
see.
failed. He's saying they should go to media training.
Yeah.